Hey there, YouTubers. Just staring at the screen like, ooh, like you don't know what I'm doing. It's Mr. Zero of Mr. Zero's Terrorite doing yet another vlog. I'm wearing my Dickies hat, my Dickies fedora today. I don't know if I've ever shown it to you. I kind of feel like I need to stretch this out. This is, well, I was planning on this being my replacement Mr. Zero hat when this one, this is a much funnier looking hat anyway. It works much better. For the purposes intended. But when that one got like too beat up, or as a replacement, I got this one. But it's just not as funny looking. And although I look funny in it, I think I look like a Hasidic Jewish pro golfer slash poker player. Maybe I might need to trim this when I think about it. But at any rate, onward and upward onto the point of this video. Um, Let me take you back 20 years ago to a time called the 90s. For you young kids out there, I grew up in the 90s, which was short for the 1990s, which was the period of time between 1990 and 1999. That was my graduating year. Um, and like most kids, I was in my teenagers. By 93, I was a teenager, or becoming a teenager by the standard terms of I was turning 13, and like many other kids, I was also having these like identity, like who am I, what am I about type thing that begins to happen in your teen years. You start, who am I, man? And I latched on to music like so many teenagers do, and the music that was actually pretty standard and popular at the time was alternative rock. Um, One of the seminal breakout beginnings of me finding my identity through music bull crap was staying up watching a late night TV show called Friday Night, which was comedy and music put together, kind of a variety show. They would, I think they would have live music occasionally, um, comedians on there, as well as showing music videos. And at the end of the show, they had like their special big important music video, and I just happened to turn on the TV. This was that late night TV show. I might add, as nocturnal as I am now, I was even more nocturnal then, and I was probably turning off a VHS video cassette movie and came upon this show, and they were showing Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. I just thought that music video was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. It was so absurd and surreal and nihilistic and blah da 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 da. I loved it, and I made sure to tune in the next week because you could like vote on your favorite videos week by week on that, and I was pretty sure, I was hoping that one would be on again next week, and sure enough it was. And I ended up going to the library and I found the CD and I took it home. Super Unknown, and I loved the whole CD. Um, Fast forward a couple years, I wanting to learn how to play guitar because then I was like, yeah. So I happened upon in the bookstore, I happened upon a magazine put out by World magazine, and anyone that is into guitars knows that Guitar World is a really good magazine for guitar players and also bass players as well. I'll throw that out there. There's other guitar magazines that might be better, but this one is kind of like it kind of caters to both guitar and bass. Um, Primarily guitar, but it does talk. But at any rate, they had a special issue called like alternative guitar for Guitar World. I only saw the one. The magazine gave me the impression that there might have been more. And the difference between this and your standard guitar is there was like little comics little jokes in the bottom and stuff. And, this type of stuff that you would find in like a typical zine, from the punk scenes. And what it also had was some really good articles about not only just bands but also styles. And the two articles that I ended up reading that kind of like, oh, this is who I am. By the time I got into high school, I was fully into this kind of mode. Was they had a history of punk and a history of hardcore in there, and so I read them both and got into that. And also at the same time, Green Day was coming out. That we're talking like 94, 95 is where I'm referencing now, and Offspring came out with their big album Smash. And I love the song Self-Esteem, but even more, Green Day's Longview seemed to like, that whole slacker, loser vibe I could really relate to of the song Longview. And so I kind of identified with that. And spent years like researching anything I could, much like I do with clowns. I researched everything I could about punk rock, the style, the info. And just as with clowns, you can sit there and argue various things about styles and everything, and what's a real clown, what's not. You can do the same thing with punk, and in punk, it's even more a visceral fight sometimes. That ain't punk, man. This ain't punk. This is punk. And I remember towards the end of the 90s, the late 90s, you could read an article about Green Day, and we're not punk, we're pop, we're pop rock. We're not a punk band. Um, and they would say this because I remember reading in that article, Billy Joe Armstrong said that they're not going to claim being punk anymore because they've caused things to come into the punk scene that they're not proud of. And I'm sure that's like the little girls walking around. I'm a punk. Hey. I even remember having a conversation with a girl about alternative rock, and I like alternative, and I like punk. Or no, I said I like punk. Oh, I like punk too. And I'm like, well, I like anything that's alternative. And she's like, punk is an alternative because punk is happy and alternative's not. And it's like, you don't listen to a lot of punk. You're just listening to the happier punk. There's some really visceral, like, ah! But the best punk, in my opinion, is the stuff with the real tongue, firmly in the cheek humor with a really dark undertone to their humor too. Like Dead Kennedys is like some of my favorite hardcore punk rock to listen to. Let's lynch the landlord, kill the poor, chemical warfare. That's all off of one album there too. Holiday in Cambodia is another good song. I like Straight A's. A good song. Man with the Dogs used to be one of my favorites. I am no one, but I'm well known, for I am the man with the dogs. There's going to be a whole bunch of like guys in their 30s and 40s going, yeah! And then all you young kids are like, what's he talking about? Um, but yeah, so flash forward, like as I said, the end of the 90s came, and the music's kind of taken a downhill turn. As there's not as many bands that I can identify with. There was a situation that happened to me where I was thinking I turned it into a joke for my wife. It's the 1960s. Old man walks into a public bathroom in a department store, and there's a whole bunch of hippies hanging outside, and he says, "Oh, those hippies they're gonna try to take my wallet or something. They're no good, and they're probably infested with diseases and fleas. Oh, I gotta stay away from them." Go into the 1970s. Old man walks into a restroom in a department store, and there's a whole bunch of punks out there. Oh, those guys are dangerous. They might try to steal my wallet. Oh, they might try to knife me. Blah blah blah. Flash forward to the 80s, and then they're hardcore punkers, and there's like, oh, those bums will, the same thing. Flash forward to the 90s, a whole bunch of grungers. Same thing. And then flash forward, I'm the old man walking into a Walmart bathroom, and there's a whole bunch of emo kids sitting there. And what do I say? You know, I sit there and I laugh at them because they look ridiculous to me. And not to pick on them or anything, but yeah, they look kind of ridiculous. But the music, to me, I was kind of getting out of it. I've been listening to a lot of other different things. I got into nu metal, got into sludge. I've been listening to doom, all these things. But it never had the same like yeah that I did with punk rock. And now the point of my video, my point, and there is one of this story, is amongst all the stuff I listened to on the radio. I got into a Perfect Circle, and they were coming to Kingsbury Hall out here in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is kind of a fancy dancy place for any sort of band to be playing. Kingsbury Hall is the type of place that you can go and see ballet performances, and it's in the University of Utah. They're one of their performing spaces. You can see comedians perform there too, and you can see all sorts of different things. But a Perfect Circle came there, and my wife, who's a huge Maynard James Keenan fan, and any of the bands he's in, she's roll. We have to go see it. No, I don't want to go out and buy tickets and have to wait in line. Because they were also putting a limit on how many tickets you could buy and things like that. So me and my wife, we went and stood in line, and we got our tickets, and this was like a month before the show shows up. And I was relieved, because that's what I hate, going to buy tickets for this reason, But and I was kind of like not looking forward to the show. I don't know why, but I was like, wasn't really looking forward to the show for some reason. And we showed up just in time, and we get into our seated area, and while a band is playing on stage, and I'm like kind of like, oh, listening to the music, and then this band keeps on playing songs, and I'm like, this band is really good. This is like, yeah, who are these guys? They're all female Japanese punk band called Red Bacteria Vacuum, which I might post a link to one of their videos. But I bought like all they had like a special on getting like 3 CDs together for a certain price, and I bought that, and I even got all the band members to sign it. At least one of the covers, I think. And it was just wow. And it was like the first time in a long time that I'd heard a band that made me just like kind of excited to hear music again. And the funny thing, I don't understand a darn word they're saying on any of their songs, but they're just so much fun to listen to. And some of them can be poppy. Some of their songs are really like, if I post a video, it's probably going to be the Roller Coaster, because I like that song because I can sing along with the song with the roller coaster. But that's my stupid lame Shaggy Dog story about going out, and like I was so excited. I wish I could have moshed, but there was seating there. And this turned out to be kind of a disappointing trip for my wife, because she's in a wheelchair, so we have to get wheelchair accessible seats. And just like the year before, we had seen Pussifer perform at Capitol Theater, which is like the theater in Salt Lake City to go see any, like, it was like, this is a really fancy theater. This is where you go to see the opera, you go to see the ballet, you go to see Broadway's latest that has finally made it down there. And Pussifer performs there, and me and my wife sat through that, and everyone just sits there and, wow, this is great. So we were expecting the same thing, in another sit-down venue. And the terrible thing is, once a Perfect Circle gets up on stage and starts performing, everyone stood up. And I'm not a very tall guy. I'm 5'9", and out here in Utah, that is short. The people are really tall out here. It's from all those Mormons walking across the U.S. You know, they grew really long legs doing that, and so there's a lot of tall people out there. So I can't see properly, and my wife who's in her wheelchair, she can't see the band at all. Now, for me, that's not a big deal. I don't, need to see the band to enjoy the music, but she wants to see, the band, and she was so angry, and it turned out that kind of miserable because of that, but still nothing could, bring me down because I had been jazzed up by a band I had never heard before, playing a music that I had heard, a style of music that I've thought I was tired and done with, and just got, oh, this is great, yeah, yeah. That's my story. I got re-energized in punk thanks to a whole bunch of Japanese women. A group of about 4 or 5 Japanese women got me revamped into a form of music that I had felt stale with. Salud. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. In communication.